Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy here for This Calls for Confetti, and welcome to This Calls for Confetti's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. I am going to be using the dies from the Candy Corn Debossed Shaker Pouch and Die Starter Set. So I like to stretch my products, right? I think we all do. We want to get our money's worth. So I like to use things in ways that they were not intended. So here you can see I'm using both dies. Now typically these dies would be used to create a hole in your card project or your paper project to create a shaker pouch, a hole for a shaker pouch. And that's what you would normally do, and you can kind of tape them both together and then create a little frame. There's lots you can do with it in terms of paper crafting. However, I wanted to use them to create two fun little bats. Now these are going to be the bodies. Where the single point is, that's going to be the bottom of the body, and where the 2 points are, those will end up being the ears. So on my fabric, it's just some twill fabric. You can use muslin, you can use Sherpa, you can use corduroy, burlap, whatever it is that you have, right? There's no right or wrong. There's no candy corn bat police that's going to come and tell you you're using the wrong fabric. Use what you have, use what works for you. Have right sides together. I traced out my patterns, I pinned them together, and now I'm stitching right along those lines where I traced my patterns. Now you notice with the larger one that I went outside of the actual die itself. I used it as a template and I drew a little bit wider. I just wanted that bat's body to be a little bit larger. And so again, I'm just going along those drawn edges, and I just used a white colored pencil that erases very easily. Actually, I have a mono sand eraser, and I use the end that is not sand, and that erases away any white marks that are left, and I actually show you here in just a little bit. But I'm sewing along the edges or the lines of both of these little triangular candy corn shapes, and I leave an opening so that I'll be able to stuff them. And again, these will be the bodies. Now you could see there that I pushed that button and that went back, and then I lifted the button and it went forth. So that's what you use. It's called a back stitch is what I'm learning. And you use the back stitch to kind of lock your stitches in place so that there at the opening it doesn't come undone as you stuff it. So now I'm taking out all of my pins and I'm using my designated fabric scissors. You want to make sure that if you're using textiles in any way, fabrics and that kind of thing, that you have scissors that are specific to the fabric. It just makes the process so much easier. So now I'm cutting out my shapes using or leaving maybe 1/8 of an inch along the side where I stitched, and then I am just using my fingers to turn my shapes right side out, and then I will use a dowel. I also use that same white colored pencil throughout my process. I want to make sure that I get those corners so that they're laid out nice and neat and smooth. And so I do a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, but I do little snips on each corner just so that those corners will lie flat. So I don't want them to be bulky. In fact, I want them to be pointy if I can make them pointy in this regard. So anyway. All right, so in terms of stretching my products, again, I'm using those dies to create the bodies. Now the wings, as you can see, I'm creating separately. So the steps are really very easy, right? It's basically just trimming out your pattern or drawing out your pattern. Now if you have an actual pattern, feel free to use that actual pattern. I just don't use them. I mean, I can, and I'm sure if I do something more complicated than these, I will likely need it. But anyway, so if you want to see how I created a bat where the body and the wings are not separate, but they're one piece, I will link to my channel, because the first bat that I ever made was exactly that. It was all done in one piece. So this, I just wanted the wings to have a little bit more texture, and in doing it like this, I create little channels, if you will, or ribs. Not sure really how to think about them, but as I stuff them, those ribs or channels become pockets for the batting to go into. So we'll see what that looks like here in a little bit. But where the points are, where I'm drawing those extra lines, I will be sewing there, and that's what will create the pockets or the channels. And here I am just erasing those excess lines that I don't need, and I'll be doing that erasing again for any white lines that remain. So again, I drew out my lines. I know exactly where I'm going to be sewing, so I'm adding my pins just to hold everything together. Now again, on both of these sets of wings, you want to leave the top open because those channels or pockets that I'm going to be putting the batting in need to be open so that I can access them. So here they are, and you can see all the white lines, and that's where I'm going to be doing my sewing. So initially I just go along the outside. I don't do across the top. I just do the sides, and I just follow those. Got to get my fabric going the right way, but I follow the lines in very much the same way. So I love making my supplies work for me. So while I'm sewing this up, let me ask you, what else could you use these dies for? Right? They're basically a rounded triangular shape. So when you're just looking at the shape, not thinking of candy corn, not thinking of anything in particular, but what else could be in that triangular shape? I can think of a house. I think of trees. What else do you think? What else can be triangular shape? What else can you use those dies for? So, and here's what I'm going to do because I want to know your ideas. I might use them. I'm going to do a giveaway. I have 2 packs of the candy corn confetti mix. It is no longer available on the website, so this is very special. I want to give it away to 2 winners. So drop your comments, your suggestions downstairs in the comment section, and let me know what you would use these dies for. Don't use the ideas that I already gave. Don't use bat bodies. Don't use trees or house. What else? What else? Let me know. And then this video this contest will be open for 3 days. I will put the exact dates in the description box, so check down there, but you'll want to look back here to see if you've won or not. So make sure that you are subscribed and that you've hit that bell so you are alerted when comments are made so that you'll know when I post the winner. And if somebody doesn't respond, if the winner doesn't respond within 24 hours, I will have to choose somebody else. So we got to keep it moving, folks. So make sure that you have subscribed and hit that bell and that you're checking back because I don't want you to miss out on winning this confetti mix. I'm holding it now, and there's lots of sweet things in there. No pun intended, it being candy. There's candy corns. There's polymer clay discs. There's confetti gems. There's the little straw, the sticky bits. I don't know what those are called. It's a beautiful mix, guys, and it's so fun, and it's so happy with the bright colors, so you don't want to miss out. So let me get back to my project here. So in terms of making these wings, I actually looked on Pinterest for some primitive bat designs, and that's where I got the idea of having the bat wings separate and channeled. I really liked the texture. So here, when I put these together, I actually left them inside out. I left the wings inside out. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any more of the white lines. And that eraser really did the trick. So I've got them both stuffed and sewn back up. I closed up the top. I used a little bit of Mono Tombow liquid glue to hold it together, and then I stitched the wings on just in a very simple stitch. Now I did not go all the way through to the front. I did not want the stitches where I'm putting the wings onto the back to go all the way through to the front. So I was very careful not to let my needle go all the way through. Now here I'm creating a mouth, and that I want to come all the way through, but I don't want there to be any knots on the front, so that's why I'm starting on the back. And I have a long needle, and it goes all the way through, and I just try to make as few holes on the back as possible. No one is likely to see, but still I want it to be neat. So I'm trying to go in through the same hole, or at least as close to it as possible, and then I'm just working my needle up through to get it to come out where I need it to come out. So I go over each of these lines twice. I just want it to be just a little bit more prominent than it is with just one piece of thread, I guess, basically. So I go up and down, again using the same holes on each side, and then going through, putting that needle through the front where I need it, just to create a very simple line mouth. I do create the little cheekies, if you will, with the lines on the side. I think they're super cute. Look at that. And then I go into my button stash and I pull out a large and a small button for both bats, and I use my hot glue gun. Now it does get a little bit messy, but thankfully it cleans up really easily, really easily. And I don't like naked buttons, so I just put a little bit of thread or twine through the buttonholes, and then I glue it off on the back. And then again, just gluing them down with my hot glue gun. Now this one had a little bit of a shank on the back, so I used my wire snippers just to snip that shank off so that the button would lay flat. Use that hot glue again, and there it is. Now I'm sewing on the mouth again. Same style mouth, just one line basically of thread. I do go over those lines twice so that I have two pieces of thread. Now there my thread came undone. I just rethread my needle really quick, and this was a large needle, so it didn't take much. And again, I don't want there to be any knots on the front, so I just put my needle through right where I need it to be, but I keep it underneath the fabric. So basically it's on back, but it's on back in a way that you can't see it. And so there they are with their sweet little faces. You can see the candy corns are upside down. I nipped those bottom ends open so that I could put a stick up in there because I'm using them as a floral pick. And we'll see a full arrangement that I have on my mantle with a bunch of different Prim pieces. We'll see these in place there. So here I have my gathered twigs paint. I want something that is going to be permanent. And then I have just this stipple brush, and I'm just grubbing both of them up just to make them look a little bit more aged and weathered. And now I have my Versacolor ink pad in pink. This is a Sukaneko product. You can use any ink product. You could use paint, whatever you want. You don't even have to pink up the cheeks if you don't want to. But I just thought that would be a little bit of extra personality, if you will, to their sweet little faces. And then I decided that I wanted to add trims and things underneath them, and so I pulled out some different trims from my stash, and I pulled out some Excelsior, or some people call it sisal. Yeah, it's basically very thin strings of wood shreds. And then I use my hot gun to adhere the trim, as well as the Excelsior, as well as the rusted bow. So where my trims don't want to lay down right, I just use one little line of hot glue, and I adhere them all down into that glue just a little ways. I want them to have some freedom to be able to move about and have that appearance of movement and fluidity, if you will. But I use that hot glue, and I just kind of poke the Excelsior down into that glue so that it stays. I do have to manipulate it a bit to get it to where it pleases my eye, because it's unruly, and I've said before that I like things to be unruly, but I want there to be some order to the chaos. So I just work it until it pleases my eye, till I wrangle the bits that are a little too unruly, and then I call it done. So here's where I'm adding the rusty star to this guy. And I did put a little bit of room spray on them. I put pumpkin cinnamon swirl room spray, because a lot of times when people do their grubby solution, they put cinnamon in that, and I just didn't have the time to make a solution. I just used the paint. So I thought I would add some pumpkin cinnamon swirl scent to them. So they smell delicious. They're so stinking fun. I love that their wings are textured and channeled, and that they're so different to their bodies. I love it. And here they are in a whole display. I've made this display with other things that I've created. Some for this calls for confetti, some for just for myself, for my own channel, and lots of different Prim and handmade products that I've used. So here are my sweet little baddies. You can see all their bows in the Excelsior. They're down in that jar. There's a pumpkin that I created. There's my other bat, and again, if you want to see the tutorial or the process on that one, you can jump over to my channel and watch. It is downstairs in the description box. And there's a little ghosty that I created last time for this Calls for Confetti. The little skull and ghost here were the very first textile projects that I've made, and that little pumpkin head is kind of an inspiration. And then I made these little candy corns for other projects as well, and I think it all just comes together. Now this will not be my mantle overall for the year, but I just thought it was really fun to put all of my textile Prim pieces together. And so here are my Batty Bats. They have so much character. They're so simple and so sweet, but also just so full of character and life. So guys, again, drop me a comment downstairs. What else would you use these candy corn dies for? Right? Let me know, and come back in just a couple of days because you want to see if you were selected to be a winner of this candy corn confetti mix. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to talking to you downstairs in the comment section. Join us on all of our socials, and until next time, mwah, I'm out.